that Ancestry.com, where you
Now, why would that scare you?
Well, you're giving a corporation your DNA.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I mean, if you happen to have a match for a kidney for somebody rich, it can come and bump you up and take your kidney. I don't know. My mind is, I admit that I have a huge overactive imagination, but do you really want to give a complete stranger your DNA?
Not really. I mean, that's like a lot of the police departments, especially in California, before you even get charged, I mean, or you get pulled over for even speeding, they wanted to actually be able to take your DNA and file it. And, the courts so far are saying, no, that's going too far. But it's getting to the point where, I don't want somebody to have my DNA unless I did something terribly wrong, I mean, if I didn't do anything wrong, I don't want anybody to have it. I just don't. It's none of their business. I mean, I don't want to see a whole bunch of other Garys walking around.
It's as personal as you can get. I don't like that either. And I don't know. I think with all of this genetic engineering, because that's another big element in these books, the whole genetic engineering, how we're, we've got designer babies, we've got CRISPR now, we've got genetic drives, we've got all of this stuff to almost like make ourselves like like a Dr. Frankenstein making his monster. It's it's terrifying. I mean, the thought of messing around with your baby because you want your baby to have blue eyes or you want your baby to have green eyes, or you want your baby to be tall, or you want your baby to be this or that. How scary is that? I mean, when you're putting in one gene, that might be switching off the other genes, and then something else goes out the window. So you get the trait that you want, but then you're losing something else, and you should just take what was made. I don't know.
But have you ever thought about
creepy stuff?
Have you ever thought this? Eventually, let's say they start collecting everybody's DNA. They can sit there and say, "Oh, wow, this person's DNA, has a problem with it." Maybe. Yeah. And I'm not talking now, but I'm talking in the future, right? Could you imagine they'd start taking everybody's DNA, and then all of a sudden my DNA doesn't meet up to their standards, right? So then, my kid's DNA is not going to meet up to their standards. And then eventually they could sit there and say, well, these people DNA can't exist, these people, because their DNA is inferior. They're going to cause they're going to cause inferior race. They're going to,
a modern day Hitler.
Yeah, modern day Hitler, and that's what scares me because, like I said, I don't think anybody should have somebody's DNA unless there's a good reason for it. I mean, when you give up the rights of your DNA, you've given up everything. There's nothing else to give.
That's why my mom bought me. I mean, she wasn't trying to be mean by any means, but she gave me that Ancestry.com kit for Christmas. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, but, well, did you send it in? Did you send it in? And I finally had to say, Mom, I'm not going to send it in ever. No. I don't want my DNA out on the street. And she goes, well, what do you think? People are going to clone you? And I go, I don't really know what they're going to do with it.
Yeah,
if
storage.
I send it in, that's it forever. Exactly, that's it forever. And I don't know. I mean, think about it. You saw, like you were saying, your friend's bike just kept coming up on his phone over and over and over. Well, now your DNA is put in a database, and you've got this kind of. They know your blood type. They know your hair color. They know everything.
Well, this is
and now
Deana, it's just like this, okay? Hitler went after the Jews, right, and figured they were inferior, that they had to be destroyed, okay? Now, down the road, I'm not talking 10 years or 20 years, maybe 50 years from now, maybe 100 years from now, I don't know. But if they have everybody's DNA and their family's profile of DNA, they can sit there and say, especially as the world keeps getting more overpopulated and they want to start thinning out the population, they can sit there and say, okay, you can't have a child. Or if you have a child, they'll take care of your child for you. And that's what scares me. It's the future. I would not willfully send my DNA out to nobody for no reason.
Did you see that movie, Gattaca?
Yeah.
That's, another prophecy. Remember, I don't know if you remember, but Jude Law took the part of the brother with the good DNA, but then something happened to him and he ended up in a wheelchair.
Uh-huh.
And he couldn't. And then the other guy, what was it, Ethan Hawke maybe, he had the bad genes. He was susceptible to heart disease, and
right.
It was predicted he'd have a heart attack before he was 30. So they swapped places.
Yeah, but wasn't that one guy? Wasn't he killing people? The one guy, or doing something kind of strange, if I remember right.
I think he just wanted a career but his DNA held him back or something, and then he found out all of this. I can't remember. It's been so long. It's an old movie, but Uma Thurman was in it too, and they found out that, I think, like what you're saying, they were killing people who didn't have the right genetics.
Right.
Kind of like Hitler was killing the Jews because of their race, and now people are killing you because you have weak genes.
Well, do you remember a movie, Charlton Heston, going back, I think it was in the mid-'70s, early 70s, Soylent Green? Do you remember that? Does that ring a bell at all?
What was it called?
Soylent Green. Basically, the Earth went through a nuclear war type of thing. It's kind of rebuilt itself. They were gene splicing people, and then it was overpopulated, so then they would take the older people. They had to convince that, because the Earth has changed. I mean, there was no beautiful mountains anymore. There wasn't, it was yucky out, And they would entice people when they got a little bit older. They would go into a room, they would get to watch like old films of how Earth was, and they were put to sleep. And then, because food was a short supply, they would, without the public knowing, they would process them into a block of food, and it was called Soylent Green.
Oh, it sounds like a great movie.
Yeah, actually, it was. It was, anything with him was, he was a great actor.
Yeah.
But it makes you, these people who wrote this stuff, it seems like they kind of like had thoughts of the future that it's slowly happening.
Well, I know everybody wants national health care, and I mean, to a degree, I do too. I don't think anybody should go broke paying for their insurance premiums. But on the other side of the coin, I mean, think about it. Like, let's say that we had some kind of national health care program, or let's say we had a global health care program for that matter. Think how angry we would all get at the drug addict who was so expensive to put in and out of rehab all the time.
Yeah.
Okay? Because now we're all paying for each other. Think how angry we would get at the smoker who has all of these breathing problems that we have to pay for, or how angry we would get at the obese person because they keep shoveling it in and they've got all these health problems that we're all paying for. It would really be kind of scary if you weren't living a perfectly clean life. No one would be tolerating, other people's health, and that eventually people would, of course, quit smoking and exercise, and I bet you all of that. But then there's still going to be people with bad hearts who, no matter what they do, they have bad hearts. People, no matter what they do, are susceptible to cancer and so on. Are we going to start getting mad at them? Are we, like you're saying, are we going to start eliminating them so they're out of the gene pool?
I don't know. I would say not now, in the near future. But the way society has been going, I wouldn't put it past anything. Probably 50 years ahead from now. That's just my feeling. I got a funny feeling things are moving really fast, and they're moving faster every day.
Yeah, that seems to be the way it's going, and I mean, it's hard to feel sorry for people with certain diseases that they're inflicting upon themselves. But just imagine once all of that's gone, now you're going to start eliminating the weaker genes, and I don't know. I don't really care for what's around the corner. It scares me. I'll be dead by all then.
But I have to go back into the late 50s when I was in grade school, and going back, like I mentioned to you, like with the toothpaste thing, or dumping, over a major city radiation just to see what would happen to the population. That if they could do that back then, with that mindset of the people in the world, now just think society has changed. I mean, before you used to know your next door neighbor. When I grew up, if my parents had a problem with whatever, the neighbor came over, or all the neighbors would come over, and they would help. Now, people don't know their neighbors. They don't care to know their neighbors. No. And society is all to the point, I only care about myself pretty much. And I think they use that I think they also have conditioned us to be that way.
I agree. I couldn't agree more with you. And I think they've also conditioned us to be more stupid.
Oh, yeah. No, they condition us where we don't know what to believe anymore, so I can tell you that.
And I'm telling you, these kids with math especially, they cannot make change for $1.
They can with a calculator in their hand.
It's ridiculous. Talk about somebody who's so easy to rip off. They can't. I mean, we've got how many billions or trillions in student debt? Well, it doesn't take a mathematical genius to figure out, gee, I think I'll take out $200,000 in loans and major in philosophy. Okay.
How are you going to pay it back?
How the heck? Yeah. Are you kidding me? And then what are you going to do? Work at McDonald's for
$12 an hour?
Yeah. And why is the government giving people that kind of money for a loan? It's like they're trying to give us like indentured servitude. And the kids are too stupid to understand that the debt that they're signing up for doesn't go away. It's there forever.
Yeah. And you have said that so good. Hey, we're down to like 3 minutes left. I want to invite you back on the show anytime you want to. I really want to, I know, and it's my fault that we steered off, probably what you wanted to talk about.
You're a wonderful host. I love talking with you.
Yeah, it's just you some of your views were so much like mine, and just kind of, the philosophies that kind of just went in there. Again, why don't you tell everybody where they can get your books and, your website and all that information before we go?
Well, again, I've got 3 of my books are free right now on Amazon. Deana Rae, Dinarae, the bestseller, the sequel, and Halo of the Damned. Those 3 are free, digitally, of course. And then you can always find me on Twitter, and my handle's at Halo of the Damned. I have a Facebook fan page, Deana Rae Books. Again, Rae is spelled R-A-E. You can find me on Pinterest. I'm on Google Plus. I write my own blog. It's Deana Ray's Write Stuff, and that's spelled WRITE